Hello and welcome for China Solved. I'm Andrew Hubert, and this is the China Negotiator. Asking the big questions. China 2019. Is it an opportunity to buy low or your last chance to flee this sinking ship? This is you. This is China. This is you on China. And it may be time to make a decision about how long you're going to stay on that tightrope. On the one hand, the economy is beaten up, beaten down, and looking to get worse. The trade front is still a hot mess, and the leadership is oppressive. On the other hand, the Chinese economy is still number 2 in the world and heading up. The trade news is bad, but it can't get much worse. So in financial terms, that might be a buy sign. And the leadership in Beijing is looking rock steady. So is China a buy low opportunity, or is it time to bail on a sinking ship? The takeaway: the news is getting worse. Or is it? If you think that China will be a big deal in 2021, then now is the time to start beefing up your resources and your connections. If you think that China is fizzling out, this may be your last chance to move your assets out of China to friendlier locations. Buy low or bail out, the table of contents. Buy low and sell high, why it's the hardest move to make. China as a beaten up opportunity or China as a sinking ship? Let's take a look. First, buy low and sell high. Why is it so hard to do? The decision to buy low is the hardest move to make because it makes you a contrarian. It makes you a lone wolf. And contrarians go against the common wisdom and go against the safety of the crowd. It is risky, it's lonely, it may pay off big, but it may not pay off for a while, and you will have to stay the course. When you talk about the risk of an uncertain future, you're talking about contrarians. Contrarians look for more risk because they think it's got higher returns. And a big reason that being a contrarian is so difficult is because you have to be right on many fronts, not just on the overall concept. Being a contrarian, going against your industry consensus, as far as China goes, is definitely riskier. You'll be in the minority, and that's one of the reasons you're getting the pricing you're getting and you're getting the access you're getting. But there is no safety zone for contrarians. You're leaving that behind when you leave the safety of the herd. So let's look at China as a beaten up opportunity. Let's say that China is on sale because of the economic problems. If the tide is changing for the positive, then this is the time for you to stake out your claim. And if you want to outcompete the other expats and the other people in your industry, then now might be the time to start looking at how you're going to enter the China market when everyone else is leaving. And if you do think that China is on sale right now, then this is a great time to start cementing your existing relationships and to expand your network. But having a network in China has never really meant as much for foreigners as it's meant for local Chinese. That may change now. If Westerners in your industry are leaving China in a hurry, then you staying behind and continuing to operate in China will demonstrate a level of trust and a level of grit that most Chinese don't think Westerners have. Then this might be a good time to build a real relationship as opposed to those superficial networking events where you just hand a business card to the guy with 2 hands and you think you're checking the box on networking in China. And finally, there have been a lot of success stories in China and that are being kind of swept under the rug. You've heard a lot of politicians talk about the evils of doing business in China, but business leaders who are successful in China know not to talk up their wins. So you're only hearing some of the story. I won't say half, it's probably more than half. But the big multinationals do seem to have carved out a permanent niche in the China market, and that would indicate that there is appetite for international trade if the market opens. And that could be a pretty big if. So what about the other view? Is it time to abandon the SSPRC? Abandon ship. Promises unfulfilled, no real reason for hope, and it's just time to go. Promises not met. It was a good run. China's bull market was exciting. The race to the bottom was a thrill as far as purchasing and low pricing goes. But the dreams of the China market are still out of reach. Manufacturing prices are rising, and it's just too much work to stay above water. There is no good reason for hope. There seem to be cracks in the foundation of the China economic miracle. The debt and the regulation and the state champions that you can't compete with are all blending to make China an unattractive place to do business going forward. The Xi administration is not friendly to foreigners, and there doesn't seem to be much of a roadmap for a recovery. If the numbers aren't working for you now, then you have to have a pretty compelling case for what's going to turn that around. And a lot of people just aren't seeing it. And maybe it's just time to go. Economic cycles don't last forever. When I went to China, there were people who had just moved there from Hong Kong, who had moved there from Taiwan, who had moved there from Japan. There are cycles in the economy, and none of them are supposed to last forever. And there's a great tradition among expats of applying strategies that worked in the previous market to your next market. It gives you a big competitive advantage, but it doesn't last forever. And the political risk within China, both internationally and domestic, can spike at any time, and most expat managers are just not in a position to deal with it. It's time to go. Final word. You don't have to make one definitive dramatic decision right this second, but you have to know that the risk of a decision being made for you by governments, by market forces, by tariffs, or by external forces, the risk of that is going up. Right now, you still have choices. You also have to be aware of the China time warp, where days just pass at a normal rate, but months or even years disappear. And 6 months from now, your decision-making universe might be constrained. Guts are good, but a plan is even better, and together they are unstoppable. So if you do plan on sticking with the China market or on entering the China market, then map out your strategy carefully and proceed after Chinese New Year. Thanks very much for China Solved. I'm Andrew Hubert. For more on this subject, take a look at The Fragile Bridge and 10 Common China Negotiating Mistakes. Thanks very much. I will speak to you again soon.